Good morning. Today's talk is about why freedom, the burden of freedom. You know, we all live in this, we all want freedom, right? You want freedom, you want financial freedom. And when I'm talking about freedom, I'm not just talking about financial freedom, because when people say financial freedom, they just mean relief. You mean you just want life to be easier. When I say freedom, I mean the freedom with capital F, like freedom from the requirements of religion, or the requirements of social norms, or the being dependent upon your utility, or the large food companies, Apple, Google, whatever, all those larger entities that we become beholden to in modern life. Being someone who has been really committed to freedom, and then also freedom from kind of the tyranny of our own mind, the tyranny of our own expectations, and just the freedom with a capital F. That's what this talk is about. My intro, for those who aren't familiar, I take breath breaks. I encourage you to do those with me. This is a building conversation. It builds up to a point, so it's not trying to sort of click all your dopamine centers and keep you engaged at every moment. Drama, tension, release. It's not like that, and I encourage you to get unaddicted to drama. And then the last thing is that these talks are for conscious people, earth lovers, people who really want to do the right thing, make the world a better place, and aren't really so tribal. I mean, we're all tribal to a certain degree, but not tribal in the sense of you want the good for all humans, and you want the good for all of life. And then the other part about this, I guess, is I would say this is for people who know and who believe in the wisdom of humility, of not somewhere deep inside of you that you need to challenge your own righteousness, and that righteousness on one level is a disease that gets stronger in times of fear and uncertainty. So a disease that is that's growing right now in our mass culture. So back to freedom, like the burden of freedom. So here's the bottom line. I'm supposed to say the punchline later, but not very good at retention statistics. They say when you make these things, you're supposed to do it a particular way to keep people's attention, but whatever, who cares? We don't really, when we say we want freedom, you don't want freedom. I don't want freedom. Mainly, we don't want freedom. We want a vacation. We want to not have to deal. And unfortunately, that's not what freedom looks like. Freedom doesn't look like not having to deal. That's what people say when they say, I want financial freedom. You just want to not have to deal. You just want everything to be taken care of for you. And, but that is like this incredible trap. When you get everything taken care of for you, then you sort of lose your independence, your independent thinking, because you're so wrapped inside of a system. You can't even see how much the system is controlling you, and how you have to, you've got to be attached to the grid. You have to have your conveniences, your air fryer, your espresso machine, going out to eat, whether people serve you food or whatever your particular thing is, you're completely beholden to that. So, on one level, this talk is about why you probably really don't want freedom. So many of us claim I want freedom, but really what we want is ease. We want ease And, a lot of these people who are like, freedom, it's and they also say that they want security. It's such an ironic thing that so many people in the world are like, chanting freedom, but what they really mean is they want to keep their life the way it is. They want to keep all of their things and keep their conveniences. And we're all the same way. I'm the same way too. So what is this talk really about? This talk is really about like how freedom, it's actually totally worth it, but it's not ease. It's not like take it easy and walk on easy street. So in my life, for example, I have an incredible amount of freedom. So and here's the thing, like, I do not have to follow anybody's religion. I do not have to follow anybody's political ideology. I do not have to follow, I follow less and less what is required of me to get food from other people as we grow more food from ourselves. I have to do less and less of what's required of me to put energy into my house as we make our property more efficient and get less and less dependent on the grid. We're not quite off grid yet, but we're working in that direction. I've been self-employed for 40 years, 35 years, I don't know, something like that. And that's an incredible amount of freedom in my work life. But that's probably the biggest burden of all so the thing about the burden of freedom is that the more freedom you have, the more responsibility you have. So I'm free to choose whenever I go to work. It's so friggin' hard because I got to make myself show up all the time. I got the freedom to I would say, when it comes to like, self-sufficiency and homesteading, like, I have my own fruit trees and nut trees and ducks, and we used to have goats, and, all of those things take time and energy to manage. So the more independent you become, which is freedom and independence, right? They're kind of interchangeable ideas. The more independence you have, the harder you have to work to maintain it. So freedom's hard work. And most of us just don't want it. I think most of us, maybe you and myself included sometimes, I don't want freedom. There's times when I wake up and like, I do not want to water the fruit trees. I do not want to do the 100 different jobs that it takes to be self-employed. I do not want to, figure out which products I can buy because the ones that are presented to me as normal are completely outside of my value system. I don't want to do it. Some days I don't want to do any of that. But it's totally worth it. But freedom is a burden. It's not easy. It's not relief. It's hard work. I think that's why so many people like Donald Trump, because he just says, like, just do what I say, follow my lead, and I'll take care of all your problems. He's not taking care of anybody's problems, but anyways. I don't know if this talk's gonna go live. Look at that giant line. I was gonna go get some pastries because I wanted some relief, not freedom. But I'm not gonna, because there's a giant line right there, so I'm just gonna keep driving away. All right, moving on. The burden of freedom. So if you really want, like, what kind of freedom do you want? Do you want to be truly a free, independent thinker? It's a lot of work. Most of the time, it's no fun. It's so much work to try to, if you're like me, I mean, I wouldn't take it back for the world. I am so glad that, I found Joseph Campbell and I found comparative religion, and I found, the freedom not to be stuck in any dogma, but to find the beauty and the wisdom and the weakness in all religions of the world. Like I would never change that. But it's a lot of work because nobody does it. I got to invent it every time, and I got to try to convince other people what I'm talking about, and nobody understands. You're not going to understand, most likely. Very few people that understand the wisdom of religion outside of a literal interpretation of religion. Like, this is true, my religion is true, and yours is false. So when I'm from, my religious freedom comes from this place where I know I'm not stuck in any one dogma, but I have to evaluate every story on its own merit and find, well, that's actually not a burden, that's actually a joy, because I get to see the wisdom behind the poetry of, for example, the life of Jesus. That mythologized death and resurrection, death on the cross, and resurrection, and the giving your life up with pure love in your heart. Like that story is it teaches us how to live. On a side note, there are many other death and resurrection stories across the pantheon of human religious ideas that are almost identical to that one. So it's just, I'm sorry, I offend Christians all the time, but it's just ignorant to think that is the one true story. They're all over the place, and they speak to a deeper truth about being human, not about an individual dude. But whatever. I'm always wondering whether I should say that stuff, because I know I'm going to turn a bunch of people off, but I don't want to have to pretend that I'm something other than I am. Anyways, driving by where I used to live, very interesting place. Okay, here I go. Next, what's the next point? Oh, got a headache. Had a concussion about 4 weeks ago. Still kind of affecting me. So freedom's a burden. So I just talked about religious freedom. Let's talk about financial freedom. That's interesting. That one, what would it look like to be financially free? I think that's probably just a bad term. Basically what you want is just a bunch of money so you don't have to really think about making money. So that's just like, people just want a free ride. You just want a free ride. Again, it's a vacation. You just want a vacation. I don't think you really want freedom. Like, what does financial freedom even mean? I think it just means, like, I'm just rich. I just have money in the bank and I don't have to think about money. Whatever. Or I don't have to go to work. That's really interesting, though. Like, if you're really pursuing a life of freedom, the more freedom you have. So this is, I guess, the point I'm going to stand by and I'm going to say is the truth. The more freedom you have, the more responsibility you have to hold it together. So let's move on to food security. So I've been big on that path for many years. Excuse me. My freedom from being beholden to the food corporations. It's a freedom, but it's so much work. Whew. Insane amount of work. Somebody standing in the road. Worker. Building a big fence. Interesting. Cool. Oh. Religious freedom, financial freedom, I think it's a misnomer. And food, sovereignty, energy, being free from the big energy companies. You know, I mean, are you ever really free? You know, you're going to have to buy, even if you go off grid, you're going to be beholden to the battery companies and the inverter company and the solar company. I mean, it's good, it's helpful, and I think we should all strive for more independence. So maybe that's more of the nugget of this talk, is that independence is a ton of work. Freedom and independence are kissing cousins. So financial independence, think of it that way. Financial independence. I like independence better when it comes to talking about financial independence, because when you're talking about financial independence, you're just talking about being less beholden to the society for your needs. So, you know, financial independence could be, you know, example of my fruit trees, and but it's also making sure that my taxes are low, and making sure that my property taxes are low, and making sure that I, you know, don't have debt, and you know, all those things are very challenging to manage. But how can this help you? I think the most important part that I'm trying to say is be honest with yourself about if you really want freedom, because it's costly. It's a huge sacrifice. We don't think about that. It's like freedom. Well, just be honest with yourself. If you want a vacation, then you want a vacation. If you want to vacate your life, then that's what you're seeking. That's not freedom. That's different. That's just, you want to exit. And there's lots of ways to exit, but it's not really freedom. Freedom's a lot of work. You know, I have friends that I admire them so much. They work so hard, and they're totally financially free. They don't have to work anymore at all, but they work so hard. Now they work at something that they love, which is they have their boat, and they half of the year they travel around in their boat. The other half of the year they keep everything, you know, really maintained and functioning on their property. Ooh. And but their freedom is a lot of work. It's a heck of a lot of work. It's a burden. So I guess the point of this talk is you got to let go of the fantasy that even if you were to achieve freedom and independence, that somehow your life's going to be easier. I mean, if you make a bunch of money, and then you have a bunch of money and you're very smart in the way that you spend it, then you can have freedom, I guess you would call it, independence. So in some ways, I guess money does solve all your problems, but not all your problems, but it'll solve a lot of your problems. How is this talk valuable? Is this talk valuable? I don't know. I hope it is. I'm not really sure. I guess it's kind of impossible for me to talk about freedom right now because I feel so trapped in my life. Okay. Hope that's helpful.